Hey guys, Mr. here, and this is the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo. And we have two spec variants of this guy. We have the 16 GB variant and the 32 GB variant. And I have with me here the 32 GB variant, which costs about $3,000 and that's about 1.1 million naira based on Asus pricing for the Nigerian market. Anyway, the version I have is the specced out version, so we're looking at a Core i9 processor, a Geforce RTX 2060 graphics card, and of course the dual 4K screens, which I initially thought was going to be gimmicky considering my experience with the touch bar on the MacBook. However, this guy right here proved me wrong. With that said, let's get into the review, guys. Now, design-wise, the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo is a uniquely designed laptop in an era where we have normal and boring laptops around. I think Asus has consistently stepped up their game in trying to do something different, and this guy right here is no exception. So it has an aluminium finish, and the size is a bit on the heavy side. It actually weighs about 2.5 kg, and I personally don't think I can carry this comfortably with one hand. Like, I'll definitely feel the heft. But yeah, moving away from that, the back attracts a lot of fingerprint stains, but it's nothing that a napkin can't fix. Now, moving to the ergonomics, and when you open this laptop, the main chassis actually comes up on a rubber fit, and what that does is that it ensures an improved airflow underneath, and it also gives you like a slightly inclined typing position. And talking about typings and keyboards and all of that good stuff, Asus has actually moved the keyboard beneath. Now, with most laptops, the keyboard is always placed here and the trackpad placed beneath. But because of the Screen Pad Plus, which is what Asus is calling this secondary display, the keyboard had to be moved beneath. And guys, it took me a couple of minutes to get used to the old setup, but after a while, it was a breeze. And for those who are wondering, the trackpad has also been placed on the right side, and it also lights up and can also be used as your number pad. And to do that, all you have to do is tap on this button, and yeah, it enables the number pad. Now, the fact that the keyboard is pitched forward means that there's no place for your wrist to sit on while typing, but Asus has actually included a wrist rest. That was really tongue twisting, but yeah, Asus has included a wrist rest, and it does help when typing. Now, Asus has also placed a light bar underneath the keyboard, and it lights up when you're charging the laptop or when you connect it to Alexa. But yeah, let's talk about the screen and the display, and I think that's the biggest selling point of the Zenbook Pro Duo. Now, the display is what makes it unique, obviously, and the Zenbook Pro Duo contains a dual screen setup. The top screen is a very nice looking 15.6-inch 4K OLED display with amazing image quality. I mean, it's 4K, so videos, gameplays, and even pictures look stunning. And yet the second bottom screen is called the Screen Pad Plus, like I said earlier, and it's also 4K and is the standout feature on the Asus. Now, both screens have touchscreen capabilities, so you can use your fingers or an Asus pen, which has also been included in the box. And guys, I think that's another reason why I kind of like Asus style of doing things, the fact that they've added all of these accessories in the box for free. But yeah, moving on, the two screens have similar density levels. So the top screen sits at 282 ppi, while the Screen Pad Plus measures at around 285 ppi, and that gives you stunning imagery throughout. Specs wise, the main screen handles sRGB, Adobe RGB, and even the DCI-P3 color gamuts, so you can handle all sorts of work on this guy. Now, even though the secondary display is 4K, I feel it's not as bright as the main screen, and that's because of this matte finish you have right here. But Asus has also included a way for you to bump the Screen Pad Plus brightness to 100. Of course, all of that bumping is going to be at the detriment of your battery. And talking about matte finish, I like the fact that the secondary display doesn't reflect light like the main display, And I mean, it's all in the little details. Now, image quality aside, I must say that the major strength of the Zenbook Pro Duo is in its multitasking abilities, which have been made possible thanks to the secondary screen. So how can this be used? Well, this is my favorite part. Let me show you. So the first thing you can do with this guy is to move between the two screens like this, or using the trackpad. You can also move images in the same manner. And guys, you can also make the screen pad plus display use multiple applications at the same time. Now, a typical use case for this is when you're trying to learn something online. Maybe you're learning a tutorial and say a coding tutorial, right? Now you can have your coding app on the main screen and the YouTube tutorial or the Udemy tutorial on the secondary screen. It makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah, so like I said, you can treat the secondary display as the external display, but there's still more that you can do with this guy. Now, in addition to all that I've mentioned, you can also use the Screen Pad Plus as a joint screen. So in other words, you can extend an app throughout the display, which can come in handy with certain applications like Illustrator. Now, another use case for this, which is very important for me because of the fact that I edit a lot of videos, is the fact that you can move your timeline onto the secondary display, and with that you can enlarge it with your fingers, close it in, and it makes everything really seamless and gives you a better workflow. Now, one last use case for this guy is the fact that you can concurrently organize up to 3 applications on the secondary screen. So like I said, it is definitely not gimmicky at all. And yeah, I forgot to mention, check this out, guys. Now guys, there are also many utilities provided by Asus in the Screen Pad Plus to make things easier. For example, you can open a virtual numeric keypad to aid with data entry. You can also use the handwriting with text recognition ability. And if for some reason you don't want to use the Screen Pad Plus, maybe because you're trying to save battery at that time, you can actually turn it off by tapping a key above the number keypad, which is very convenient. Now let's talk about the performance. And this laptop was designed for creatives and professionals, so it's not surprising to see that it is highly specced out. Now, during my time with this guy, I noticed that the RTX 2060 can handle graphics-based intensive games pretty well. Like, I didn't have any issues with it. Now, to give you a bit of an example, I ran FIFA 20 on very high settings, and by that I'm talking about 2K resolution, ultra rendering quality, 60 frames per second, and all of that played smoothly without any lags or issues. Anyway, if you're not doing video editing, gaming, or any graphic intensive work, it switches over to the default Intel UHD graphics 630 GPU. Now guys, one thing I noticed about the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo is the fact that it has been able to handle the inevitable heat and noise. Of course, you probably notice a fan rumble when using the device extensively, but it is not loud enough for it to be distracting. And there's also the fact that you can hit the turbo button on the number pad to increase the fan speed when it gets too warm. Anyway, next up is battery life, and this part clearly shows that you can't eat your cake and have it. Now, during my time with this guy, I realized one thing: it is not made for a longer term use away from your charger, which is kind of understandable. I mean, we're getting a dual 4K screen, and you're also getting that Core i9 processor, which is like a power hungry processor. Now, during my usage, the Zenbook Pro lasted for over 3 hours of medium work. Another thing to note has to do with the ports. So you don't get as many connectors as some gaming laptops, but I think most of the important areas are covered. So you're getting 2 USB 3.1, a full-sized HDMI port, a headphone jack, a Thunderbolt 3 USB-C, and yes, there is no memory card slot for those who are wondering. Now, the last thing I want to talk about has to do with the audio, and even though this is tuned by Arman Kardon, not sure if I got that pronunciation well. Anyway, this ensures that the audio has good bass, but I do wish it was a bit louder than it is. Now, moving away from that, you get an IR camera which supports Windows Hello with face login. Guys, there you have it, and I think I can officially say that this laptop is the queen of multitasking. I mean, during my time with this guy, I noticed that the secondary display increased my productivity a lot, and of course you're getting that beautiful 4K OLED display, which also gives you one of the best displays out there. And let's not forget that impressive performance. But with all that beautiful and powerful dual screen comes a reduction in battery life. Now guys, even though this has a high price tag, based on the specs, I definitely say it is worth your money. If you have the 1.1 right now in your account and you're thinking of buying a laptop that's very powerful, this is definitely a good option, especially when you compare it with other laptops in slightly similar spec bracket. Hello Apple. Anyways, let me know what you think about the Asus Zenbook Pro Duo, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Take care.